the overwhelming majority of our behavior, and I would actually put it somewhere along the lines of 99.9% of our thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors are not authentic to who and what we are. It's that severe, it's that extreme. And so liberation, self-realization, liberation, we can use those things synonymously, it does not occur until you fully and completely own your own mind. And the only way to own your own mind is to investigate what is driving your behavior. What is the core motivation between your thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors? And until we understand that, then it isn't our life. It's someone else's or something else's. We don't understand what's been programmed into our mind because it's been programmed into our mind. We actually think this is just how it is. It's not. It's not how it is. And so the book will reveal that when we do those exercises.
Could you just highlight what your intention was with the book to start with, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I could sum it up in one word: freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's my intention behind everything, the freeing of humanity on all levels. And so until we own our own mind, we're not free. And most of us associate freedom with doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not freedom. Freedom is escaping the tyranny of the finite conditioned mind and limiting body consciousness. That's freedom. And that's what I'm interested in for humanity. And so the book, Change Your Mind, is a step-by-step, repeatable, robust process to bring the subconscious into the conscious mind. And then once what is buried is brought to light, if it no longer serves you, then you can delete it, just like an unwanted program off your computer. And each time you delete one of these programs that have been implanted into our brain, more and more freedom is realized. And then eventually we will own our own mind, and therefore our life becomes ours finally. So we have to start to peel back what our core motivation is, right? This is how you deprogram your pattern subconscious mind. Most of us are driven, as I was, most of us are driven by things that are not authentic, or not an authentic desire of who we really are. It's been programmed into us. So by understanding what is motivating our behavior, we are removing all these layers of delusion and illusion till we get to the core motivation. And then we start to realize, is this a desire born of the real me? Or is this a desire born of my subconscious pattern mind? And therefore it has really nothing to do with me. Now, all success, from my perspective, all success in life is simply when we are in alignment with who and what we really are. That's success. To come all the way down here, to be completely disconnected from all the things that we are normally connected to in a much more holistic environment, to come all the way down here, deaf, dumb, and blind, clueless, absolutely clueless, and to rediscover your true self. That's it. Mission accomplished. Home run, grand slam, however you want to say it. That's it. The overwhelming majority of our behavior, and I would actually put it somewhere along the lines of 99.9% of our thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors are not authentic to who and what we are. It's that severe, it's that extreme. And so liberation, self-realization, liberation, and we can use those things synonymously, it does not occur until you fully and completely own your own mind. And the only way to own your own mind is to investigate what is driving your behavior. What is the core motivation between your thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors? And until we understand that, then it isn't our life. It's someone else's or something else's. And so that's why this is the second book, because it's paramount. It's absolutely paramount. And we don't understand, hence subconscious. We don't understand what's been programmed into our mind, because it's been programmed into our mind. We actually think this is just how it is. It's not. It's not how it is. And so 95% of reality creation comes from your subconscious mind. So our rational thinking mind, 5% of your life that you create for yourself, right? Only 5% of it comes from your thinking mind. Just think about that for a second. And that's why I say it's a limitation program that runs by thinking, because the limitations are buried in the subconscious. So until they're brought to light, there is no freedom, there is no liberation, there's no way to create the life that we're all capable of. And that's why this work is so important.
Now, this is one of the key ways to understand the difference. If the desire or passion is born of the real you, or the desire and passion is born of your programmed mind. If it's born of your programmed mind, you're not happy in the moment. You're constantly striving for a future result. Now you know that is your programmed subconscious. That's not you. The real you is present now. The real you is okay with everything as it is right now, while simultaneously having harnessed its desire and intention for the fulfillment of a specific goal. But you're already completely at peace as you are now, while simultaneously working towards something. That's when you know it's the real you. And if you don't have that inner peace presently right now, sans the goal, then you know it's your programmed mind that is compelled to try to achieve something through a future outcome.
We're a fractal of God. And last I checked, God doesn't have any limitations, and neither do we. So if we're rubbing up against limitations and resistance, it's because these are programs that have been put into our mind that we're not bringing into our conscious mind. And therefore, we keep running these programs of scarcity, lack, separation, duality. And this is the kind of life that we end up manifesting. We have an abundance of lack, an abundance of scarcity, and an abundance of the idea that everything is outside of you. And I want better for humanity. So
we want to live out and experience the fulfillment of the desires that are authentic to who and what we really are. Our sentience, our I am. People use the word soul, but I think we have a much better definition of that word now. So we want to live out the desires that we set into motion before incarnation, before reincarnation. We call this a life plan. And when it's the real you, the I am, those desires are of the true self, or the real self. And that's when we're truly passionate, or purposeful, joyous, and we feel fulfilled just by the process, not necessarily the fulfillment of the goal, but just by following our own path that is authentic to us, that is authentic to the I am, to the soul, if you want to use that word. That's a life worth leading, from my perspective. But if we don't take that back through our own alignment and through the deprogramming, then all of us know what this is like. We're going to lead a life that's empty, meaningless, has no purpose, and we end up either severely depressed or full of anxiety as to not living up to these things that have been programmed into us.
That's exactly right. Sentience, which is what I call a divine intelligence, which is our level of love and wisdom, who subsets our talents and abilities. And that sentience, the I am, the fractal of God, is given energy to create with, and that's the energy that we use to think, to emote, to animate our body, to create experiences. Now, that's exactly what God is. God is sentience, given energy in order to create. And we are the exact same thing. And that's actually what it means to be made in God's image. It has nothing to do with a body or some guy with a white beard or whatever, right? It's sentience, given energy to create. And that's what it means to be created in God's image.
When we are in the flow state, we lose ourself, and that self that we're losing is the false self. We lose the ego, mind, identity, and there's this oneness, right? Us and what we're doing, it's like it's one flow. We're just flowing, no separation. That's the real you. That's the God in you. And so the key is to maintain this perpetual flow state. And when we have removed all these limitation patterns, and therefore the harsh inner critic that halts the unlimited creative from being in a perpetual flow state, then we're able to actually maintain this high-end level of creativity without ever an interruption. And that's also part of, from my perspective, that's also part of what self-realization or enlightenment actually is. It has this element of perpetual flow and this ability to create without limitation.
Yeah, the key is the first part of the book. The book is, as you know, is kind of divided into, it's almost like 3 books in one. It's kind of like meet the real you, maintain the real you, and express the real you, right? So meeting the real you has to do with the deprogramming, because the human personality, the human character, from my direct experience, is so far from what we really are. It's a tragic comedy. If Shakespeare were here, he would say it's a tragic comedy that we're so far from what we really are. So for me, it's about the self-control and self-discipline that is brought through adhering to the teachings, the protocols and the principles of the book, of uncovering what is your core motivation behind what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. That's really the key, to just start to discover, why am I really doing this? Why am I acting this way? Why am I thinking this way? Right? Is this really, are these desires really authentic to me? Or are these things that have been, or are they things that have been programmed, which they are, things that have been programmed into my mind? Now, this is part of why we're so unsatisfied with our experience here, Tim. This is part of the reason why, because we're leading a life that has nothing to do with who and what we really are, right? And then we misidentify ourselves with this form, this biological garment that's draped over the I am, the sentience. So we identify with this, and as soon as we identify with this, we identify with body, what I call body consciousness, 5 senses. The data stream that comes in is just the puny little intellect. Now we've reduced ourselves to some logic and linearity program, and then we become a consumer rather than a creator. And that's why we feel very unsatisfied. We're a consumer here. We're consuming beliefs, concepts, ideologies, so-called knowledge, substitute gratifications for the immeasurable I am. And so I want humanity to start working, from my perspective, properly and optimally by going within and discovering the treasure within, instead of constantly reaching for a distraction as a substitute gratification because we're in such misery and suffering.
The voice in our head is the matrix. It is the programming, however you want to say that. That is constantly holding you back. That is constantly criticizing yourself. That is constantly telling you you're not good enough. Constantly telling you you're not going to make it. This is the ultimate insidious and brilliant black magic spell that has been put over humanity for thousands of years. The only way to stop an immortal, unlimited creator is for each one of those individual, unlimited, immortal creators to stop themselves. That's the self-talk. And if Merlin the Great were here, he would say the self-talk in your head is the spell that you're putting over yourself. So if you're telling yourself some story, if you're spelling yourself into limitation, if you're spelling yourself into the authenticity of these limitations, they will absolutely be real and true for you. So we stop ourselves through inner judgment, and then we project that onto everybody else.
I think the key thing to understand about this, Tim, that all of us are an unlimited, immortal creator, just like God's source. Unlimited, immortal creator. Now, the only way to stop an unlimited, immortal creator is to make each and every one of these unlimited, immortal creators stop themselves. And that's what subconscious programming is. That's the voice in the head. Now, if we can all step back for a second and really look at that, we start to understand that the ego mind identity is the matrix itself, that we stop ourselves, the harsh inner critic, our inner judgment. We are the ones that are stopping ourselves. And you see how insidious and brilliant this actually is. So not only do we hold ourselves in bondage, we then do it to everybody else. And so by uncovering these limiting beliefs, the voice in the head, right? When we start to uncover the root cause of these things and we see it clearly, we can delete it. And as we delete each one of these programs, like an unwanted program upon the computer, there's an inner shift. And that inner shift relates to what you were just talking about a higher frequency, a higher vibration. More of the I am is now present. And that, for me, vibrational engineering, our reality is formed based upon our vibration. It's not formed any other way. There's nothing here, Tim. There's nothing here, Tim. It's just like undifferentiated stem cells. The very first cells, right? When a human is being created, undifferentiated, pure potential, right? It then relies upon desire and intention to give it the direction. Everything here, to me, then I realize I'm out of my mind. Everything here, to me, there's nothing here. It's all undifferentiated stem cells. And I create it based upon my vibration and my desire and intention, and then where I place my attention. It's all pure potential. And what actually creates the reality is our vibration. And the more that we can attune ourselves to our true signal, the EMI, the electromagnetic interference, from a purely physics perspective, the ego mind identity is electromagnetic interference. It's everything that's being broadcast here, which takes us off our own signal, which is why we create a life that is not representative of this unlimited creator being that we actually are. So when we start to work with ourselves, as I say, we start to work with ourselves properly, we start to realize that we can do anything, including unparalyzing ourselves, create what kind of reality that we want for ourselves, manifest whatever it is that we desire, because it's part of what we actually are. And we have been convinced through the harsh inner critic that we can't do these things. It's impossible. And as I said, the only way to stop an unlimited immortal creator being is to make them stop themselves. And this book is the treasure map that allows you to go to the source point, the unlimited nature of who and what we are, and gives exercises and protocols about how to unleash this real you. And then we own our own mind, and then we can create heaven on earth, which is what we're always destined to do.
I promise, at a certain point, there is no voice in your head. None. I mean it. Now that's liberation. That's what liberation is like. The voice in your head is gone. Once that voice in your head is gone, you feel like $1,000,000. Your frequency is higher. You're freer. You're happier. You're more joyous. Boundless amounts of energy, because you're not using all your energy to be attached to all these different societal conditionings and identifications that we've made just to fit in. Well, we didn't come here to stay. You don't have to fit in.
The idea came to me that I have to get rid of these limiting programs that are buried so far deep in my subconscious mind, because this is what's driving my behavior. I can feel it. So I decided to take 2 weeks off of work. And instead of obviously going on vacation, I decided to become self-realized. So I started to do this change your mind, the protocols. But I knew that if I simply traced my core motivation to why I'm doing what I'm doing, I would then discover whether or not this desire was authentic to me or something or someone else. And so the very first morning, I woke up, I slept with my notebook. Slept with my notebook and my pen. So I got up, it was like 4:30 in the morning, right? I had to go to the bathroom. So I get up, take my notebook and pen with me. I walk into the bathroom, and I just catch, I just catch a glimpse of my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Now, completely and utterly unconsciously, I just automatically reached for a brush and started brushing my hair. No thought process, nothing, just totally unconscious action, just doing this. And it dawned on me like, whoa, what is going on here? Why am I even doing this? I didn't even think about doing it. I'm just doing it like an automaton. What is going on here? So I stopped and I literally opened up my notebook and I wrote down brushing my hair. And then I started questioning it. Why am I brushing my hair? And the first answer I got is because it's a mess. Now, that's not a core motivation. That's a justification. It's a justification, right? And this is where most of humanity will stop in terms of self-inquiry. They ask themselves one thing, they get some kind of juicy justification, and then they just move on. Nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough, right? Because my hair is a mess. Why do I care? So I asked myself again, why do I care if my hair's a mess? And the answer I got is because I want other people to find me attractive. And remember, this is like 4:30 in the morning, right? So it's like, as soon as that came to me, because I want other people to find me attractive, I knew I was onto something. I was like, I'm starting to get in there. 4:30 in the morning by myself in the dark, brushing my hair. Why would anyone do that unless they're programmed to do it, right? So, because I want other people to find me attractive. And now it's the next question where the next time we go a little deeper, this is the key, right? All it takes is a little bit of courage and a little bit of honesty. So then I ask myself, why do I care if other people find me attractive? Why do I care? And the answer I got is because I get a sense of my own self-worth through other people's opinion of me. In that second, there was a gigantic inner shift. Gigantic. It's like the I am just went, and a program within my mind got deleted. Just got deleted, and I could feel it. I became like a wild man. I knew that in 2 weeks, I'm going to delete all these things. And all I did was investigate what would seem like a completely and utterly meaningless activity or behavior, brushing your hair, right? Things that we do all day long with no thought process. Wait till you see what you discover in terms of why we do these things. And that was the first thing. That was the very first one. And that was all I needed to continue to do it for 2 weeks.
If we have feelings of sadness, depression, anger, lust, jealousy, pick one, right? So these things arise for a reason. And when we meet these things, instead of ruminating on them and identifying with them, Sean, if we simply meet these things with pure presence, pure awareness, that I am is so supremely high frequency, it will alchemize the low frequency emotions that are coming up, and we'll be able to move right past it rather than stewing in it, right? One instance occurs that we get upset and sometimes we're thrown off all day, a week, a month, a year, right? When we work with ourselves properly and we meet it with the awareness, it'll alchemize it. And in no time at all, we'll be able to move. We'll get the clarity and we'll be able to move right through it. And that's really the from my perspective, the most optimal way to work with low frequency emotions that come up.
This is just you, right? You don't have to put on this for somebody else. You're not talking to your mom, your dad, a therapist. You're not in front of a big room, right? Where, we kind of, I don't know if I can be honest. This is just you and a notebook. That's all it takes. And the right questions. That's all it takes. Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? That's why I totally understand what you're saying, but that's why I frame it that way as opposed to these other circumstances where that might be totally overwhelming for people, right? A big room, the therapist, the this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
Courage, dedication, honesty, right? Once you have that, I mean, there's nothing that you can't do. And you're simply just asking yourself, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? And every time you get to the core motivation, you will tangibly experience more of what you are every time. And as soon as what I found, not just with myself, with all these people that I've, thousands of people that I've done this with, as soon as they start to taste it, Tim, they become ravenous. Ravenous, because the limitations are starting to leave, and the power and the freedom of what we really are starts to become more and more tangible. And then once you taste that authenticity, nothing inauthentic will ever satiate you again. And that's why the programmed egoic mind starts to leave, because it's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough anymore. And as soon as we taste just a little bit, and that's really the key, to just be honest and courageous enough to get a taste of the truth. And then that's the only thing that will ever satiate you.
I'm not a fan of scientists, but scientists today have determined quite accurately, because I get almost the same number, that 95% of reality creation comes from the subconscious mind. Our thinking mind, at best, plays a minuscule or 5% role in the life that we create for ourselves. Now, this should give everyone great pause, because the gold, the treasure that has not been discovered, and now has, is access to this massive reality creator, which is the subconscious mind. So it's incumbent upon all of us that we have to learn how to do this in a very easy and robust manner, which is what the book lays out. Because without access to the 95% reality creator, we have very little ability or say in creating the life that we know that we're capable of, and the life that we know that we truly desire.
Once you truly feel better, you don't reach for something that you know is going to make you feel worse. It's gone. You've transcended that disease. So you don't reach for something. You feel great, right? When you feel great, you don't reach for something to make yourself feel terrible. However you're vibrating, right? You then reach out for something that's in accordance with that vibration. When we feel terrible about ourselves, right? This is when we reach out for low frequency experiences. We reach out for the wrong people to hang out with, or we reach out for substitute gratifications, right? Whether it's I need to get drunk, I need to get high, I need to have sex, and whatever it is, right? And everything in moderation, even moderation. But when we are feeling low frequency, we reach out for low frequency things, because that's in accordance with our vibration. So as you start to feel better and better through doing this, you don't reach out for those things.
You reach out for other things that are in accordance to your new vibration, your new frequency.
We all are the I am. We all are the fractal of God. All of us, right? It's just that our attention has been on everything other than that. And these exercises bring your attention back onto who and what you really are. And when people say to themselves, torturing themselves with their own imagination, when people say to themselves, I'm so far from that, this is going to be so difficult, that's a singular perspective. That's not what is. That is an energetic placeholder, is how I like to call it, Tim. So it's a singular perspective. We're putting our energy on this one singular perspective and making that out to be the end all be all. It's just a singular perspective. Take that energy and put it on something else. Then all of a sudden, that singular perspective that you had a moment ago is gone, and it no longer has any gravitas. So that's all that is. None of us are far. None of us are far from this. That's why it's 14 days. I mean, think about it. 14 days. I didn't say 14 years, right? I didn't say you gotta come live with RJ for 14, right? Like old school, sit with the guru, whatever, whatever. No, 14 days being dedicated and honest. The liberation is tangible, and we are always the I am, Tim. There's no such thing as being far away from that. It's an energetic placeholder on a singular perspective that we then give so much authority to, which then gives it gravitas over our mind and body of energy, which is why it seems like such a big deal. Just take that attention off that energetic placeholder and put it somewhere else, and watch how this, it's so difficult. So watch how it just disappears.
You can't be yourself if you don't know yourself, right? It's impossible. How can you be yourself if you don't even know who you are, right? Okay. You also can't love yourself if you don't know yourself, right? Okay. But once you know yourself, you know love, because the self is love and wisdom. So when you know yourself, you actually do love yourself. And when you know yourself, it's actually impossible not to be yourself, to be or not to be. We could dissect that in some other talk. I'll tell you what that really means. So it's a great way. I love the way that you're looking at it, but they are all interconnected. They're all part of one another. And you actually can't have one without the other. If you truly do know yourself, you know that you are love and wisdom. You'll know that. And when you actually do know yourself, it becomes impossible not to be yourself. But being yourself and knowing yourself requires self-control and self-discipline, right? And this goes back to change your mind, meet the real you, maintain the real you, and express the real you.
All right. So when we say, I'm only human or something like that, okay, that drives me nuts. Okay. When we say I and only, there's nothing only about the I am. Okay, why would we quantify ourselves and spell ourselves into some limitation by saying I am only such and such, or oops, I did it again. I am only human. This is nonsense. We have to watch the spell that we're putting over ourselves by the words that we say. We absolutely have to watch that. So for me, when people do that, I'm like, why are you saying that to yourself? Does that make you feel expansive, more powerful, lighter, and freer when you say that? And then if it doesn't, then why say it? Then why say it? So that's what I mean. So I get carried away here, Tim. So, but the only, there's no only to you, Tim. There's no only to you. There's no only to me. There's no only to God. It's everything. So we have to be incredibly mindful, because it's a pet peeve of mine. We have to be incredibly mindful about how we spell ourselves. Now we have a verifiable metric. And like I said, the book is kind of like 3 books. There's the notebook exercise. Then there's things that we can do to maintain this new discovery, and then these things to express the real you. And along the way, we actually get to measure whether this relationship is right for me, this job is right for me, this circumstance or event that I do all the time, is this really right for me? Am I enriching my life? Am I raising my frequency? Am I empowering myself? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel happier? Do I feel more joyous, more determined by after doing this? Or is it the other end? Now you know. And once you know, this is the key, Jeff. Once you know and you see it written down in front of you by yourself, you're the one who wrote it. You actually do the work and you see the numbers and you see it in front of you. It becomes really hard to convince yourself to ignore it. Most of us associate using our will, and our energy is our will, using our will to fight, right? To overcome, to fight. And that's absolutely right. Many times that is what we use our will for, to fight through challenges, whether personal, community, global, right? And interplanetary. So we use our will to fight. But I've often found that at a certain level of consciousness or evolution of a specific individualized aspect, or what we call soul, is that the highest use of the will is to actually put your shield down and stop fighting. Now, that's the real challenge. Most of us, like I said, swing the sword and fight, right? No. At a certain point, we have to be able to not just swing the sword, but be able to put the shield down. No more resistance, because it's the ego mind that's resisting, right? That's all that is. We create resistance, Tim. There's no resistance to anything. There's no resistance to anything. We create it. It's all one thing. There is no resistance. So when we start to get comfortable, put it as the analogy, right? Putting the shield down, surrender. Now the energy drops down, literally drops down. And I know these eyes don't see it, but we can see these things. The energy drops down. Now, once the energy drops down, there's no resistance. And now we can flow right into the Ascend the Frequencies healing technique, or whatever it is. Now we can flow because the energy, we now have control of it through the surrender. And that's really the first step. Humility. It takes real humility. And most of us, we're so used to swinging that sword, fighting our way through. And I get it. But healing, you don't heal that way. That is not how healing actually works. It's not how healing works. So if everyone can just put the shield down, and you'll reclaim your energy, and now you can do what you want with your energy. Your reality is created based upon what you believe to be real and true. And look at all the things that we've been programmed, brainwashed into believing that are real and true about money. Look at that again. And now understand that that is how a reality is created. Period. End of story. And because 95% of reality creation is done through the subconscious mind, everything that we have been programmed into is the reality that we are creating. And who does it serve? Does it serve you? Does it serve you? Yeah, the reacting is predictive. It's a program, right? So that's not you. That is your pattern, subconscious, egoic mind that simply reacts, right? Respond is the I am, the real you, the true you, however you want to say that. That's what responds. Reacts means you don't have any control. If you react to something, right, you're powerless. You've been disempowered because you're controlled. Because you're controlled. We were talking about earlier, the controller is controlled, period. And that's what the reactionary state is, right? So when you're residing or marinating within the true self or the I am, you will be able to respond. And it becomes very, very difficult for anything or anyone to get a reaction out of you. It's just not there because you are now in control of yourself.
Yeah. And you also talk about the differences between acceptance and allowance.
Yeah, acceptance is such a spiritual buzzword. Ugh. Okay. Right. Have to accept this, have to accept that, accept him, accept her. Right. Why would we want to accept a reality that is completely and utterly abhorrent to you? Why would you want to accept that? Right. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So if we feel into the word, Tim, if we feel into the word acceptance, okay, my hands automatically do that. And we can feel this. That's why it's metaphysics. It's the truth. So when you say accept, there's a contraction, there's a solidification, and there's a contraction, right? That's not what is. That's not what is. Okay. Now when we say allow, allowance, same thing with I know I talk with my hands, right? But this is what happens to the energy. Allowance, feel that. That's what is. Expansion. That's what is, not contraction. So we don't want to accept and solidify a reality that is discordant, but allow it to be Allow it to be. And when you allow things to be, you will start to be able to perceive all the other possibilities that are available to you, because you haven't collapsed yourself into one agreed upon reality that is discordant to you. So acceptance, while a spiritual buzzword, is metaphysically absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. Allowance is the key.
We are the supreme intelligence, the sentience, the I am. And it simply occurs by being present. Everyone has really experienced this. They might not consciously be able to explain, who cares? But you know what it feels like. We all know what it feels like. And that's what this is about. It's about the tangibility. It's about the experiential knowingness of the self. And you can only do that when you quiet the subconscious pattern egoic mind, because all the machinations within that mind doesn't belong to you. It's what's here that you've bought into. That's not you. So the key is to learn how to quiet that through any magic trick, and then let that voice come through. That voice can't be stopped. It cannot be stopped. And that's the voice that all of us have to learn to listen to, even if it does, our husband doesn't like it, our wife doesn't like it, our doctor doesn't like it, our clergy doesn't like it. Who cares? It's your life. Claim it, own it, and you're responsible for it. No one else says. So live that way. Live with the authority that it is your life, and create the life that you want by being true to yourself.
I know there's no limitations. So it didn't matter what they said to me. And they told me it was impossible. It's absolutely impossible. The neurosurgeon's fantastic. He's like, I've been doing these for 20 years. You can't get better. That's just the way it is. Right? So I know that there is no such thing as impossible. I'm tangibly aware that there's no such thing as impossible. So therefore, I'm detached from everyone else's limitation program. It means nothing to me. Right? And in fact, one of the doctors used to say to me all the time about they've been doing this for 20 years or 25 years, whatever it was. And this is the experience that I've had. Because I told everyone I was going to walk. I told them I'd do it in 100 days. I'm going to heal myself of everything. So they just thought in the beginning, they thought I was crazy. But then shortly thereafter, it completely changed. But they would tell me, the doctors, the nurses, their history about all the people that they've treated in this rehab facility, how none of them ever get better. None of them ever actually walk out of here. Right. And they were trying to tell me, listen, you're a paraplegic. This is just the way it is. And I used to say, what does that have to do with me? What does your experience have to do with me? That's what I would say in the kindest way. But what does that have to do with me? And then, of course, nothing, I guess, Mr. Spina, but I just want to let you know what my experience is. I appreciate that, but that your experience has nothing to do with me. I don't operate that way. So once we start to work in this way, we won't have these low frequency limitations. We won't diminish. We won't have to judge. We won't have to say, well, it's impossible. According to who? According to who it's impossible? You know, maybe there. One last thing, Tim. Maybe there are beings that come here over and over again and do the impossible every time they're here. So what do we say to them? Right? So that's how I see that.
No, absolutely. I know. I mean, it's brilliant because it actually exemplifies and illustrates and highlights, or whatever all of these words are, the way that the individual point of awareness that we are can use its own rules. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the freedom that you're talking about. It's like we are in our own universe, our own cosmos, and our rules are our rules. So we better make sure that we know what our rules are. You didn't abide by the rules of somebody else's universe, because what did it have to do with you? You were working to your own rules.
There are going to be things, what we call obstacles or challenges, that we're going to encounter in life. I want everyone to understand that we have put them there, because without the obstacle or challenge, there is no growth. So I don't want anyone to come away with this takeaway that, boy, if everything just doesn't flow without any issues whatsoever, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm not on my life plan. That is not accurate. That is not accurate at all. I was literally on my life plan and I became, quote unquote, permanently paralyzed. So from the egoic mind, the first thought, you must have been doing something wrong. You must have been living out of, no, absolutely not. That was part of my life plan. So it is this perpetual flow. We want to act on our highest excitement, and we don't want to shy away or capitulate to challenges or obstacles, because we put them there to see ourselves in the act of creation, overcoming them. which is what all growth really is.
Our reality is created by what we believe to be real and true. Period. End of story. Full stop. That's it. Yeah. That's it. So if someone believes it to be real and true for them, whatever it is, it will be real and true for them. We're that powerful. We're that powerful. So when we remove the limit, when we realize it's all one thing, which means there are no limitations, there are no locks or bolts to anything, then we realize there's no such thing as impossible. And when you know that, then you're going to create your reality based upon that. And then you'll do the impossible every time you show up here, over and over and over again, to prove the truth, that there are no locks and bolts to anything. It's all one thing. Everything is available. We create our reality by what we believe to be real and true. And that is exactly how it works. Period. End of story. So that's it. And once we know that, not think that, know that, we'll be able to do whatever it is that we desire.
We may very well be having a low frequency physical incarnation, which we all are. That's the location where I am currently, or at least this version of RJ, and those of you that are going to be watching and listening to this video. We are in a low frequency environment, but that does not mean that we have to operate in a low frequency way. And the key to this is to be anchored to what you really are. This, the self, the sentience, what you truly are, is the supreme vibration. So when you're anchored to this, you have principles, you have ethics, you have morals, you know what to do, what not to do, who to speak to, who not to speak to, what to say, what not to say, and how to say it. And when we operate this way, we are not affected by the greatest offer or the most enticing things that comes our way. Because what that gets pulled by is the pattern subconscious egoic mind or personhood. All disharmony comes from disharmonious thought patterns. Now, once we detach from these things and remain as what we truly are, thinking actually just stops. And now we have meditation. And the longer that we can normalize the state of being present, the closer and closer we get to self-realization or enlightenment. Self-realization or enlightenment is simply the normalization of what you truly are. And then you have full communion with your higher self, as we are an aspect of our higher self. And that's what enlightenment actually is. But the story that we're telling ourselves, the spell that we are putting over ourselves, that we then put over others, that is what we must become acutely aware of that, and we must cease with doing that. And once we cease with doing that, we'll start to feel like ourselves, and then we'll realize that what we actually are is capable of anything, including putting a completely destroyed body back together or having authentic self-realization or enlightenment. Need. If you don't have it, you don't need it. If you needed it, you'd already have it. Okay, this is one of the major spells, one of the major black magic spells that is pervasive on this planet, is the idea of needing. So needing makes you reach outside of the fully abundant, whole and complete self and chase after things, and whatever you chase runs away, right? So we must first agree that we're incomplete, that we're lacking when we say we need something. It's not true. It's not true. If you don't have it right now, you don't need it. So where is need then? You would have to create a past and future. You'd have to go into a state of delusion. That's the only way need can actually exist. So need does not exist. Moment to moment, you are whole and complete. And if you don't have it, you don't need it. If you needed it, you'd already have it. When you're authentically you, what will happen is you're not concerned with other people's approval. You're not concerned with other people's reaction, and you're not really looking for acceptance. What you're really interested in is being truthful with yourself. You're no longer trying to fit in, and you don't need to fit in because you didn't come here to stay. So it's being true to yourself, true to your highest passions, true to your highest desires. Now, once you taste that, anything artificial will never suffice. You can't go backwards. You won't go backwards. The butterfly doesn't try to jump back into that cocoon and try to become a caterpillar again. So it has to do with being tangible in terms of your own authenticity, your highest excitement, your highest desire, being authentic. And once you realize that that's the only thing that matters, not approval, not acceptance, not attention, not gratification, you won't step backwards. The universe is a multifrequential, multidimensional whole of mirrors, and it simply mirrors and amplifies our frequency, and it's all designed for self-mastery. So as you start changing everything else around you changes automatically. You don't have to do anything about it. The people that aren't meant to be in your life will fall away, and the new people that are meant to be in your life will just show up. Same with the experiences, same with all these different interests. All of a sudden you start meeting other people that have those interests. So once you allow that to happen, everything else that's meant for you can actually start to show up. And the only way things that are meant for you to show up is you have to shed what you call the past. How can there be a new future for you if you just keep holding on to the old story and your old identity? And by removing your limiting beliefs, you're making way for the new data point on your life plan to show up, which is really the whole point of coming here, to live out your life plan as beautifully and as powerfully as you can. We can think of our frequency, right? What it is that we're emanating as like a song on a radio, right? Now, all our social circles, for the most part, we're dancing to the same song, thinking the same way, same action, same kind of mindset, same kind of beliefs, right? Okay, when you start deleting those limitations, you're no longer emanating that same song. You can't dance with those same dance partners. You just can't. There's a totally different tune going on. Your real frequency. But when we are feeling low frequency, we reach out for low frequency things because that's in accordance with our vibration. So as you start to feel better and better through doing this, you don't reach out for those things. You reach out for other things that are in accordance to your new vibration, your new frequency.